Hey, hey. All right.
Doing all right. How about you?
Okay, I'm doing okay. Thanks. Yeah. Just having a biscuit. What have you been up to?
Oh man, I have been doing my poetry course and
Oh,
school
yeah.
stuff.
Tell me all about that. Tell me all about that. How's it going?
Really good, but like all of our prompts for this week were just freaking gut wrenching. So I'm
Oh,
so tired.
oh no.
It was a fun week of writing trauma processing
Oh,
poetry. That
goodness.
was very good for me, and I'm glad I wrote it. But now I'm like, please let
Ugh,
next week's themes be a little less, you know?
intense. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh. So how's
And
it?
like
How's it gone? The process?
gone really well so far. So
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
give you a prompt, a pre-writing exercise, or sorry, a poem, a pre-writing exercise based on the poem, then a prompt around that.
Okay.
And I found that format to be really helpful in terms of thinking how I start a poem and how I go about my writing.
Okay. That's cool.
Yeah. And Megan Valley, who's running it, just did like a mini version of it online at the Sierra Poetry Festival, which
Hmm.
Andy was messaging me that they were at. How was it?
It was pretty cool because she was sort of live editing poems with a lot of extra feedback, and that was pretty interesting. Lots to learn, and I liked it because it makes more sense to learn it while it's being put into practice,
Yeah,
at least for me.
totally.
And yeah, that was very nice. We ran out of time.
Oh.
Not surprised. We went an hour over the end time, including Q&A, our last one. Like if it was just for readers, so what she does is she'll live edit four people's poems and use them to teach a concept during the actual sessions. And
Okay.
it's a really cool way to learn. She said that she was pretty much doing a mini version for the thing that Andy went to. And
Okay.
from what Andy messaged me, it was a very similar concept to what we did our first week and like crossover concepts and stuff. So I was like, cool, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna bother going again because I'm a little screen tired. But it
Okay. So
yeah.
have they edited any of yours live, Lyric?
No, there have only been four chosen yet, and there's like 100 and something people in the class, so not everyone's
Oh.
gonna get to you. But if she does, I will tell you because that would be super cool.
Yeah. Totally. Well, it's cool anyway, to be honest. Yeah. Yeah. What's it like? I know hearing them.
It's really
Yeah.
neat because like she'll get the person who wrote it to read their poem and then she'll read it back to them the way that she
Okay.
read it herself and then be like, cool,
Oh,
how
I
did that
see.
feel?
Okay.
Yeah.
She did that today too.
Are there any ever like completely retellings that sound nothing like the original, how it's been phrased or how it's been done?
There was a very big mood shift last week in one that
Yeah.
like someone read a touch more playful despite darker themes, and like she was like, man, the humor in that, the way you read it, and like complimented that person's reading because of how she'd broken it up. And there were like a couple things that didn't totally come across, but like came across as different themes
Mhm.
between another two different ones, just because of where they put emphasis in words and how they read it in their heads, which was neat.
Yeah.
So I think that might have made those folks think a bit about line breaking and stuff like that.
Okay. Nice. Okay.
Cool.
Just thinking back to GCSE, we did a Merchant of Venice Shakespeare for English, and we watched maybe three or four different versions, as in stage versions and actual films. And then one version we saw, so Shylock and his daughter. I'll get this right. I think, yeah, Shylock totally adores his daughter in the usual method, but then one version was Shylock was hating his daughter, and it was exactly the same words, but it was kind of said with spite, and it kind of came out totally different. It was just really interesting hearing it said with different like intent. Yeah.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
Tone
Shred.
communicate so much. Hey,
How you doing?
doing all right. Yeah.
Good stuff. What's been going
How are
on?
you? Uh, not a ton. Catching up on some stuff with work. Month end is done now,
Oh,
which is
good.
nice.
Yeah.
So I'm finally filling out my backlog.
Ah, that's good.
But yeah, I know.
Oh, well done for making it through month end. It's always a pain. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Doing a lot of thinking about
Yeah.
life and where I want to be going, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a bit of a reflective week, I
Have you
think.
have you made any breakthroughs?
I think I might like to become an occupational therapist.
That'd be
So,
awesome. Yeah,
yeah,
that's really cool.
yeah, thinking about it and doing more research on it, but I think that's
Yeah.
where I might want to be headed
Yeah.
here.
So what's brought that around?
I suppose a little bit like just doing my own physiotherapy, and that is just something that is very concrete to help people. Like you just kind of like, okay, so how can we make life better for you?
Oh, yeah.
And how can we make life a thing that you're living better? And I just think it'd be fascinating to just study and learn about the body and how that works. But yeah, I don't know. I think there's a little more exploration that needs to be done, but I think that might be a good fit for me.
Oh, that's wonderful.
There's some really cool neuroscience in OT too. One of my therapists who I just wrapped up sessions with went to a workshop from an OT who was telling her about how sometimes humans can actually get into the habit of where they really only primarily exist in one side or the other side of their brain. So for some people who are like really stuck in that constantly like logical analyzing side, or for others who are constantly wrapped into art. Hi, Bracken. It's not that uncommon. So the workshop was around different exercises you can do to connect the two parts of your brain.
Interesting.
And one was literally just like focusing and doing the itsy bitsy spider thing. Because it is something that like you need to pay attention to, especially if you do it both up and down, just to like reintegrate yourself and ground yourself a little. Anyways, that was one that stuck with me because I also like fidgeting with my hands. So I was like, this is perfect.
Cool. Yeah, that would be just like fascinating to know about and to learn about and explore. And yeah, I looked into it a bit further, and I'd have to go back like and do like kinesiology first. Like I couldn't quite go straight into a program, but with that you could become like an occupational therapist assistant and do that for a while. And yeah, so but
What's
saving money and finding somewhere to go. Sorry?
What's kinesiology? What's that?
Oh,
The study of the body
Aha.
and movement.
It's the thing with the tape, where you tape up bits of your body, right?
I think
I mean, they definitely do that for part of it, don't they?
Yes, I think that's applied kinesiology.
I like tape. Tape is fun. I'm a big fan of body tape.
Yeah, so I'll have to see how much of my degree could apply to that. But I think steps for now are save money, and once pandemic is done, find somewhere to volunteer to work with people and get some practical experience. But yeah, I feel kind of like, I don't know, got an idea.
Yeah, that's cool.
It could be worth looking at community college programs too, because they might be quicker and cheaper.
There is one that would be 2 years, but I think with my degree, the kinesiology would also be 2.5 years. And I don't have it would give me another chance to up my grades in upper level courses, so that if I wanted to, I could do a master's later, because right now I don't quite have the grades in those upper level courses that would get me into a good program.
That's really cool and really well thought out. That makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm a little excited, a little nervous.
Nervous just means you care.
Yeah, body stuff is fascinating and absolutely like worth getting into. And working.
Yeah, I heard you did a course, right?
I did Thai massage, and I recently did a course in yoga anatomy to sort of like tie it all together, because I feel like I did my first anatomy and physiology course during the Thai massage thing, and it was like an online course, and it was fine, and it had all the information that you need, but like to actually be able to use that information properly, you really need just like the repetition of being able to be like, these are the planes of the body, these are the bones, these are the muscles, this is what their names are, this is where they start, this is where they end, and like this is the job that they do.
and these are some of the more common ways that things can fuck up. And like just having that like repetition through the yoga anatomy course and actually having a practical of like doing a yoga class and like talking through all of the muscles that are being fired at the time and what was being stretched while you're actually stretching it to put it into your own body was like super useful, really cool.
Cool.
And Thai yoga massage is like, Thai massage has like some roots in like Indian medicine, some roots in Chinese medicine because of the movement of people in and out of the area that we now know as Thailand. So like it's got a really rich history as far as like pressure points are concerned. Like a lot of the Chinese stuff was there, and then like actually part of the massage is putting people into a yoga pose and then stretching them from that position.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it pulls from different places, and there's definitely also a big element of like Buddhism that's involved because Thailand is a very Buddhist country. So like learned a lot about Buddhism as well, which is pretty awesome. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds fascinating.
Yeah. I've done a couple of like just little like half-hour massage, self-massage like classes over Zoom since then during lockdown, and that's been really fun as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we're getting close-ish to poetry time because you know me, I'm slack on time. I know that Mike has a couple poems. I have many on change and various things beside me. Who else has poetry today?
I have a couple.
Asha, a couple.
Yeah.
Bracken, do you have multiple or just one?
Just the one. For now. I can start looking if you want.
I mean, you want to. You are welcome to. I'm just writing this down to make sure I don't forget poems people are super excited about.
I have one that's like, I don't know, quite long in the beginning, bit of it fits with change. I'm not certain about the end, but it's an interesting poem. So
Perfect.
I don't know if you guys are up for it, but
yeah.
I just got this in the mail today and I've been obsessing about it the whole morning.
New book day. Cool. And Andy, do you have one poems? One? Okay, cool. One. Okay, cool.
Definitely one, and maybe I'll find something else. I don't know.
Cool. In that case, I might start us off with a little one, or a longer one. Maybe a longer one. Let's do something nice and lovely because that's how I'm feeling today. And I definitely took change as a interpret it however you want and picked quite a few poems about personal change. So like, it's not like it says change in it a million times. So if you don't feel like yours is like totally changed the whole way through, Asher, don't worry about it. That's what themes are for, loose inspiration.
All right, I'll take loose inspiration.
This is Boomerang Valentine by Andrea Gibson. I've been sitting on my friend's couch several months, being intentionally single and celibate for the first time since I was 20 years old. 20 years old when I believed sex had to involve a dude and the word screw. I'm telling my friend about the psychic who said, I'm going to meet the love of my life by the end of January. It's January 10th. And I am so far from ready for Cupid, that naked little shit, to fire anything sharp my way. So far from ready to be the kind of unhinged only love makes me. My friend musters every bit of new age jargon she can fit on her tongue and says, what if you are the love of your life? I think, oh my God, I hope that's not true. Because I am absolutely not my type. But let's say for a moment I am. Let's say I am my dream girl, ish boy, and I'm standing on my front porch, ringing my own doorbell, waiting for me to answer, so I can hand myself a mason jar full of water lilies I have rescued from a millionaire's Monet. Let's say I am so charmed by the radiance of my own anarchy, I invite myself in for tea. And when I'm not looking, I sneak the steam from the kettle into my pocket. So the next time I'm missing the coast of Maine, I can gift myself the fog. Let's say I'm not just running my mouth around an old cliche that we gotta love ourselves. We don't. I know I could keep getting down on myself until I'm tucked in my grave, looking up at my name, carved in stone, wondering why I never knew I'd been cast for the lead in my own life. When it comes to love, the only thing I'm certain of is you are the best thing that has ever happened to you. Whoever you are, you're a quitter? Great. There's plenty worth quitting. Sore loser? Who isn't? Got no discipline? Maybe discipline is for bodybuilders and closeted gay monks. Picture a magician, so attached to being perfect, he cuts off his own legs to pull off the trick. Picture the 738 selfies I deleted. Before I took one, I was willing to show the world. Picture me wishing I could get all of them back. My so-called flaws stacked like baseball cards. I know will be worth something someday, like compassion, like tenderness, like my capacity to think myself a catch just because I've never seen a chandelier I didn't want to swing from. On days I have a hard time keeping warm in my own weather, I imagine what the flower wanted to say to the first human trying to name half its petals love me nots. No, that is not how anything grows. Of all the violence I've known in my life, I have never known violence like the violence I have spoken to myself. And I have seen almost everyone around me hold that same belt to their own back, an ambush of every way we've decided we're not enough. Then looking for someone outside ourselves to clean that treason up. If I were to ask myself out of that cycle, I might say, listen, I am still growing through a growth spurt. I am still yet to get my worst tattoo. I am still trying to get rid of my mirror face. I am still learning to look myself dead in the eye. I know Facebook is a lousy mortician, desperately trying to make us all look more alive. I know there are things I haven't survived. I know there are people in this world who have been through hell with me. I don't want to take that lightly, but I want the heavy to anchor me to be brave, anchor me, loving, anchor me in something that will hold me to my word. When I tell Cupid I intend to keep walking out to the tip of his arrow and to bend it back toward myself, to aim for my goodness until the muscle in my chest tears from the stretch of becoming what I came here to be, a lover of whatever got covered up by the airbrush, the truth of me, the beauty of a beast chewing through the leaf until I got a mason jar full of water lilies and a kettle full of sea, and my whole life is a boomerang valentine coming right back at me.
That was lovely.
I love that so much.
Awesome. I really like that.
I love the personal
Aw.
growth in that one. I'm like, oh. All right, who wants to go next?
Is a mason jar of lilies a thing? Is it like a popular culture thing, or is that just a nice idea?
I think it's hipsters put everything in mason jars, and everyone puts everything in old mason jars now, especially if you live somewhere in a hippie-ish place in the States.
Aha, okay.
All of my dry goods and preserves are in mason jars.
I have lots of shit in mason
There are
jars.
a lot of mason jars in my place. Like a
People
lot.
gift me preserves, and then I just keep the jars if they don't ask for them back, and they'll occasionally get flowers in them. Sometimes they'll have weed in them, sometimes candy, whatever I need being stored.
Everything is in a mason jar. It's the hold all.
Put it in a jar.
Yeah. Oh, I have a little. This is a lot of little ones in this book. So, and they pretty much all fit the theme, but this one, you see, what they thought was a phoenix rising from the ashes was really a woman.
I like that.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Does someone have one they'd like to go next? I mean, I can do another one because I have many, but somebody else can also do one.
I could do one of mine. The shorter of the two longer ones. It's by Luis Alberto Urrea. And it's Teocalia Blues. Dangling from the Distelda, angling along this workday for Hera, navigating dawn-wet streets, brainwash myself again. Rain washed, heaven sent down the sidewalk gates, no smoke from the copal. Oral gato got these Levi's apartitos. Must have lost 10 pounds on that diet. Got your new cowboy boots, que bruto man, que barbaro mano. Hierro, today's your big day, Gea. And I march some pinche Manuela up the steps of the Templo Mayor. All the sacrificial class before me sees the blood come down and tells itself it's paint those priests in black feathers. Wait to cut out my heart, feed it to the sun god mainframe. But in the eye droop shuffle of another 6:30, I have lost my faith. The birds are buscando bronca. In every tree, I don't believe anymore. I don't believe. I'm not convinced that this temple ever earned my heart, that life isn't better than this sacrifice, that I am a slave to be butchered, that I am born to die up there like my fathers who built the temple with stones on their backs. I cannot believe, not for a minute, that I must submit and only ever hope to leave behind me this poem.
I love the rhythm in that. Oh, I'm excited to hear more from that book. Also, I never thought I'd hear like sun god and mainframe in the same sentence. Just really appreciated that combination.
Oh, yeah. I love his blending of past and present and culture, and it's a very fusion-y book. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Racken, you're holding a book open. Did you want to go next, or are you skimming for poems? Also, hi, Kate.
I have one fucked up poem and then one less fucked up poem to answer it with, just to even you out. Okay?
Cool.
Cool.
So,
Let's get fucked up.
No, it's not.
Let's get fucked up.
I'm just gonna read it. This is a poem by Robert Browning. It's quite a famous one. You might know it. It's called My Last Duchess. Ferrara. That's my last Duchess, painted on the wall, looking as if she were alive. I call that piece a wonder now. Fra Pandolf's hands work busily a day, and there she stands. Wilt please you sit and look at her? I said Fra Pandolf by design, for never read strangers like you that pictured countenance, the depth and passion of its earnest glance. But to myself they turned, since none puts by the curtain I have drawn for you but I, and seemed as they would ask me if they durst, how such a glance came there. So, not the first, are you to turn and ask thus? Sir, 'twas not her husband's presence only called that spot of joy into the Duchess' cheek. Perhaps Fra Pandolf chanced to say, her mantle laps over my lady's wrist too much, or paint must never hope to reproduce the faint half-flush that dies along her throat. Such stuff was courtesy, she thought, and cause enough for calling up that spot of joy. She had a heart, how shall I say, too soon made glad, too easily impressed. She liked whate'er she looked on, and her looks went everywhere. Sir, 'twas all one, my favour at her breast, the dropping of the daylight in the west, the bough of cherries some officious Phil broke in the orchard for her, the white mule she rode with round the terrace, all and each would draw from her alike the approving speech, or blush at least. She thanked men, good, but thanked somehow, I know not how, as if she ranked my gift of a 900 years old name with anybody's gift. Who'd stoop to blame this sort of trifling? Even had you skill in speech, which I have not, to make your will quite clear to such a one, and say, just this or that in you disgusts me. Here you miss, or there exceed the mark. And if she let herself be lessoned so, nor plainly set her wits to yours, forsooth, and made excuse, e'en then would be some stooping, and I choose never to stoop. Oh, sir, she smiled no doubt whenever I passed her, but who passed without much the same smile? This grew. I gave commands. Then all smiles stopped together. There she stands, as if alive. Will please you rise? We'll meet the company below then. I repeat, the Count, your master's known munificence, is ample warrant that no just pretence of mine for dowry will be disallowed, though his fair daughter's self, as I avowed at starting, is my object. Nay, we'll go together down, sir. Notice Neptune, though, taming a seahorse, thought a rarity which Klaus of Innsbruck cast in bronze for me.
That was very well read.
Thank you.
Nicely done.
Okay, after that guy who totally killed his wife.
I mean,
Okay. And is moving on to the next one. Okay. The next one is an Anne Drysdale poem called I Am Becoming My Grandmother. Sooner or later, in the great scheme of things, women are ambushed by their transformation into their own mothers. Mirrors tell them, or echoes of some little tetchiness that still itches under the skin that has thinned to let it out again. Not I. I have skipped a generation and will soon become my grandmother. It has begun. No longer can I pass a crying child without wiping its nose on my pinny, or any dog without extending my hand. I find all kinds of treasures in the street and take them home with me in a string bag. I touch flowers, move snails out of the way of passing traffic. All these things I do, regardless of the present company. The transformation has not gone unnoticed. Somebody left a hurt newt in a bowl outside my door, convinced that I could help it. And now, like her, I am the world's Aunt Jessie, old, fat and ugly, but hurrah, God loves me. Daily I hit the road in shapeless lace-ups, slapping my way across East Anglia, now and then turning my face up to heaven, like a tanned leather bottle full of questions, to diagnose the illness of the wind and look for little ways to make it better.
Oh, to diagnose the illness of the wind?
Look for little ways to make it better.
Like,
And Drysdale is really good.
that's the kind of ending line that sticks with you and makes you remember a poem forever.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Bracken. Kim, do you have any poems to read, or are you hanging out?
Get off mute, I can tell you. No, sorry, I didn't bring any poems. It was more like a spontaneous turn up.
That's okay. If
Oh.
mine weren't all like freaking novels, with the exception of one that's in a book, I would offer you one of them. They're really dang long. And problem, I really like really long poems. Yeah, does anyone want to read next? How's it going, Mike? Did you want to go next?
I have got one. I'm not sure that it's the theme's definitely changed, but it's probably a bit of a tone shift.
That's cool. I can see if I have something that's a bit of a more middle ground tonal shift. Maybe.
I don't mind. I'm happy dropping it in.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, cool. This one is called Change Upon Change by Elizabeth Barrett Browning. Bracken's face. Do you know this one?
No, but Elizabeth Barrett Browning was Robert Browning's wife. They had a wonderful love affair where she ran away from her family and they ended up in Italy together.
Oh,
Yeah. And he didn't kill her, so everything's great.
Isn't that good?
Yes.
That's a good end. Right.
Not murdering your spouse. Hi, Bob.
Okay, change upon change. 5 months ago, the stream did flow. The lilies bloomed within the sedge, and were lingering to and fro. Where none will track thee in this snow, along the stream beside the hedge. Ah, sweet, be free to love and go, for if I do not hear thy foot, the frozen river is as mute. The flowers have dried down to the root, and why, since these changed in May, shouldst thou change less than they? And slow, slow as the winter snow, the tears have drifted to mine eyes, and my poor cheeks 5 months ago, set blushing at thy praises so, put paleness on for the disguise. Ah, sweet, be free to praise and go. For if my face is turned too pale, it was thine oath that first did fail. It was thy love proved false and frail. And why, since these be changed enow, should I change less than thou?
I love that.
Yeah, I like that one. Well done, Elizabeth.
Thank you. I do have one little one in a book that is like a personification of change. That was very on the change side of things, so that could work next. This is one from the Book of Qualities by Ruth Gendler. And this is the art to go with it, because art is nice. Change wears my sister's moccasins. He stays up late and wakes up early. He likes to come up quietly and kiss me on the back of the neck when I am at my drawing table. He wants to amuse people, and it hurts him when they yell at him. Change is very musical, but sometimes you must listen for a long time before you hear the pattern in his music. Anyone?
Thank
Andy?
you. That was
I
lovely.
think I have something. It's a poem by Maya Angelou, and it's called Changes.
Hey.
Fickle comfort steals away what it knows it will not say, what it can it will not do. It flies from me to humor you. Capricious peace will not bind the severed nerves, the jagged mind, the shattered dream, the loveless sleep. It frolics now within your keep. Confidence, that popinjay is planning now to slip away. Look fast, it's fading rapidly. Tomorrow, it returns to me. That was it.
Short and sweet. Very nicely read.
Like that. Thanks. I can jump in with another one. I have many on this. I think I might be echoing, by the way, a bit, Andra. This one's called "It's Time to Change" by Mind Platter by Nala Zibian. I don't know how to pronounce her name, but I liked the art, picked up the book, and then I bought it because that's how that works. The first obstacle to change is feeling like you need to give those around you an excuse. You don't have to explain, but it's okay if you do. Most likely, it is those around you who have made you realize that you need to change. So why would you explain? Would you explain to someone why you're watering a withering flower? Would you explain why you're feeding a hungry person? Would you explain why you're breathing? You don't need to explain why you're protecting your soul from harm. You really don't. Do other folks have more poems to toss in?
I mean, it's a very different tonal shift, but I can definitely go for it. It's long, and I'd say it's about how people do and do not change. I'm gonna go with that.
Bless you.
Tecolote Canyon. And I wasn't the only one who wrote poems. Low riders and cops, gang bangers, gas station attendants. Everybody in the alley that year, that place wrote poems. I was riding in a midnight car with Big T. I loved his prison tattoos. Loved the bars clanged over his mouth, eyes, mind, days. They seemed so romantic. Clang, clang. Must have rusted his nights all night. Clang, slam, walk down, loved the way he cried when he read his poems, loved his cell block muscles. Man, those are some big fucking muscles. Ain't nothing to do for 10 years but pull-ups. Jack, what do you think? He made me feel like I was bad. Super bad, like poetry itself was badass. Big T come out somehow from, he didn't call it anything romantic. The house. Or the stony lonesome, called it prison. Can you dig that? Sprung free by poetry itself, rode verse into daylight, paroled by odes, the warden puzzling out T's Indio haiku, seeing evidence of rehabilitation therein, good behavior after 6 or so years of shit behavior. Now, walking in the Bashto path the crazy horse rode, according to section X of document XX, item XXX, locks creaked open. And we were headed home, my bro and me, after some reading, community solidarity, Chincanos, Marxist ballet, folkloricho, warrior women, professors' cookies, and watery punch. Better for tea if the Saradeza stayed its coolers. Down Telecoche Canyon, deep behind white houses, civilians sleeping where coyote preaches, owls slip on their feather gloves. Steel night. I was so down with my homeboy, I started picking at his locks, digging a little escape hatch in his soul so I could peek into that great cell block of poems. Poetry, heart. So T-Man, tell me, Vato, were you really in for life? Oh, yes. Well, what happened exactly? Exactly? I killed a man. What do you think happened? Wait, you killed a man? I shot him in the head. The canyon was curtained in coast fog, not another car on that road. I said, but what? What? I mean, said, what does it feel like to kill a human being? Is that what you want to know? Are you just curious, carnal? Or are you writing a poem? Or are you planning to take out some motherfucker? Because I'll tell you, if you really need to know, have I ever lied to you? Yeah, I'll tell you all about it. No, bro, that's okay. I didn't mean to pry. You don't have to tell me. I don't know how to know that shit. But you asked. And I'm gonna tell you how it feels to kill a man. It feels good. He kneels and begs for his life, and you hold the gun to his head, and you think of all the blows and all the pain and all the whippings and all the hunger, and you put 2 rounds right in his skull and watch him die. No big thing. Just shit happens. It only took me about 26 years to pull that trigger, I said. Listen, Carnal, you can drop me anywhere along here. I can just walk home from right here. He wasn't mad. He was laughing. He knew fear was funny. He dug fear like some people dig laughter. Oh, he dug laughter too. He dug what you and I dig. He dug his daughter, and he dug his wife, and he dug spring, and he dug chocolate. He dug his way out of prison, didn't he? He said, hey now, homeboy, did I scare you? Don't be like that. I thought we were just talking about poems.
Holy shit.
I did not do the darkest poem of the night. I'm so happy.
Bracken, it wasn't either of us.
It wasn't either of us. Ashura, thank
Shock.
you.
One of us.
The way you read that was amazing.
Holy
Thank
shit.
you. I've been practicing this morning.
Oh, cool. Really good.
Yeah. Like the emotion.
Yeah.
If people are up for a tonal shift, I kind of have 2 big ass ones left and one bitty one that I was thinking about going for. So I can do any of those. Are you feeling like a 7-minute Shane Koizan blitz that might take a while to get to the point of change, but it's really good, so it's worth reading the whole thing? Or another Andrea Gibson longer one? What are you feeling right now?
Which one do you want to do more?
They're just different. I really enjoy both of them. I don't know if I've read You Folks' Shoulders before. If I have read that before, then I'll do the Andrea Gibson one.
I don't remember Shoulders.
Okay. Well, if you feel like some Greek mythology or some fighting and romance.
Oh, Greek mythology.
Greek mythology.
Cool. We're going to go for Shoulders by Shane Koizan. There you go. It's a good one. Unlike after I did not practice this one. Whew, there's going to be a lot of word stumbling. Like many, I love to look at the stars. I love the fact that ours is just one among many. What I love about astronomy is that our constellations tell a story. Our constellations were born from mythology. Mythology was our first attempt to understand the world in which we live. We put a god in everything, and those gods would give us our reasons. Why is the sky blue? Who chose blue? Gods. How come men have nipples? It's the will of the gods. Why does this wine taste so good? There's a god in it. And for a while, there was not a single thing that the gods could not explain. We believed that their anger gave us lightning. Their despair gave us rain. We whispered our desires to them, believing that their charity would sustain us. Those gods were just stories. Stories became a large part of how we learn. They burn lessons into our memories. They become a part of how we remember. We can remember almost everything, right down to that first unbearable bee sting. When we learn that this tiny blue marble we call the world has rules. Rule number 1, don't fuck with the bees. An unforgettable lesson brought to you by your memories. And I remember that I grew up loving mythology. I remember the story of the Titan Atlas, who was also the god of astronomy. The original global positioning system sending sailors safely home by telling them which constellation to keep starboard. He taught us about the stars, and in all this while he held up ours, our pale blue dot. But Atlas is caught between two different tellings of his story. In the first, he leads a rebellion against Olympus and is then sentenced to hold the heavens on his shoulders for eternity. In the second story, he is chosen to be the guardian of the pillars that hold up the earth and sky. I prefer the second story. It means the world is not a punishment, but rather a responsibility. How can just one be charged with such a burden? How can just one be responsible for all this? When I think of Atlas, I think of a single drop of rain. I think how unfair it would be to hold a single drop solely responsible for making the entire world clean again. I remember how my grandmother tried to explain our world to me. She told me a story. She said the ground and the sky, they love each other, but they don't have arms. So rain, that's just how they hold one another. I began to see how the earth and sky need each other. But I wondered about us. In this perfect design, where do we fit? Which piece of the puzzle are we? Like constellations, I began to see a connection between dots and numbered my thoughts and drew lines from one to the next. I began to see us in the context of a bigger picture, sharpening the blur slowly into focus. We are Atlas. I saw that this pale blue dot, this one world, is all we get. There will be no reset button, no new operating system, no downloadable upgrade. We will not be allowed to trade in our old world for a new one with climate control or better fuel efficiency. We get one shot at this. Dismiss all reports of second chances. We get one. And yet we draw advances on our future as if we one day won't be held accountable. We will. We are. The human race runs towards a finish line emblazoned with the world's too far and wonders. Will we ever cross it? Have we already? We are faced with the seemingly impossible task, and it's okay to be afraid. Our dilemma stands before us like a mountain carved into the blockade. The sheer magnitude of our problem would be enough to dissuade anyone. How do we save the world? We lay in our beds curled into question marks, wondering what can we do, where can we start? Is there a glue crazy enough to hold us together while we're falling apart? This burden seems immense, but we can do this. We must take the martial arts approach to loving our planet. Love is self-defense. Forget about the cost. There will be no other thing as worth saving as this. Nothing more important. Nothing as precious. This is home. All of our stories start and end here. We are sheltered within an atmosphere that has given us every single breath we will ever take. Every monument we have ever made has come from the flesh of our planet. Water like blood, skin like soil, bones like granite. This is not a myth. There is no debate. Facts are in, fact is. There's never been any question. We are facing crisis. We dismiss the truth not because we can't accept it, but because having to commit ourselves to change is a scary prospect for anybody. The most alarming part of the statement, we are facing crisis, isn't the word crisis. It's the word we. Because those two letters take the responsibility away from the one and rest it squarely on the shoulders of everybody. We are Atlas now, but our strength will come from finding a way to share in shouldering the responsibility of turning the impossible into somehow. Somehow we will do this. We can do this. We can dismiss apathy. We can reject uncertainty. We can be the new chapter in our story. We will not see change immediately. We must act in faith as the hour hand grips the minute hand and they lay on the 11th hour. We must believe like the seed that change is possible to see. Never sees the flower. It grows knowing it must become more than what it was. It changes because in growth, all of its potential can be unlocked. Change is like rain. It starts with a single drop, just one, like our pale blue dot. Caught in an endless waltz called gravity, we circle the sun, wondering who, if anyone, left the light on. We are constellations drawn upon the earth. We are connected to one another. We are bound. We must behave as the arms that connect the ground to the sky. We must try to be more like the rain. Our stories may differ. Our goal is the same. How do we save our pale blue dot? We act as the rain, realizing that each individual drop is as equal and important as any. We act as one. Now, we are many.
I really like that one.
That was beautiful.
Really cool.
Mike's
Thank you so
face when I said the rain is the arms between the ground and the sky was so good.
About halfway through, I think we read it before.
I wouldn't be surprised. I love that one.
There's lots of nice imagery in that one. I like that.
Yeah.
And yes, Andy, you should definitely read that poem. Do you want to read it now?
Sure. And so this is gonna be new for those of you who weren't there on Thursday. It's part of the escape roll. Hold on. I have a space heater. It makes noise and it bothered me. Yeah, part of the escape roll, write a poem every day sort of thing, run by Savannah Brown, and the first theme of it was ego. Enter my being, grace the world with your fearless original self. They may not understand yet, but that's okay. Neither did you before you learned what the hints meant. When you were the little tomboy that climbed every accessible tree in sight, hated dresses at 5, played with cars with Dad at 6, and with dolls at 7, although that was more for the craft value of braids, knots, clothes, patterns. You always had a brain for patterns, yet your own one was elusive. Back to the tomboy then. Let's see. Started martial arts at 8, prompting grandma to say, girls shouldn't have bruises. Every single time she saw one, causing you to roll your eyes tangentially with a line of thought, well, what if I don't want to be a girl? Brief, ephemeral, not quite there, a hint. Missed it. Still, you played with the train set every Christmas and more, went to pick up the chairs when the teacher asked for some strong boys to help. You were always allergic to bullshit. You always did what felt good to you. More often than not, they didn't get it. So tell me, why did you try to make yourself fit in when you already knew it wouldn't work? I'm glad you learned eventually that it was an exercise in futility and stopped. Rummaged through lies, pretense, expectations, uncovered your genuine self that is still. That looks heavy. Why don't you get someone to help? One of the men. No thanks, I'm strong enough. Allergic to bullshit. I can feel you wanted to confront them. Just because you can't do it. Why ask a man? Because I have tits, I must be a frail, weak woman, right? I'll have you know, I open all the jars on my own. 3 days later, it still irks you that you settled for the short version. Fret not, though, you're a work in progress. There's more to do. The closest people are the most terrifying to talk to. But I'm proud of you, tomboy, for picking up the hints, seeing the pattern. Welcome back. Enter my being. Grace the world with your fearless original self.
Yeah! Woo! What was that, Bracken?
I love that poem so much.
That was great.
Oh, thank you.
Allergic to bullshit. Oh, I love that one. Cool. I was thinking about maybe reading one more, but we're just turning to the hour. And that doesn't seem like a bad spot to end. So, what are you folks feeling?
I just wanted to ask Andrada, you know, the way that your poem is laid out, it sounded like the first bit and the last bit were like a haiku.
They were.
They were. And it sounded like they were also starting with the letters E and G and O.
They were.
Oh my god, you've put so much thought into this.
So actually, not quite, because the haiku was the first one. Because I was like, oh yeah, this is the first theme. I'll do something tiny. I don't know where to start. Let's think ego. Let's be fancy and start it with the letters. And from the haikus, the rest of it happened. And I was like, oh, actually, I can start and finish with it.
I'm very impressed that I was able to get that without having seen the transcript.
Holy shit. I am
That
very
is
impressed.
very good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fuck yeah, that was
Both of you. A+ in poetry. Extra gold star.
I would be
Everyone gets gold stars.
I would be up for listening to another poem.
Cool.
Yeah, we did start later-ish.
I'm gonna do the bitty one, and then I'll do Fight for Love because it's so fun.
Okay.
To read. But the bitty one is just so relevant because multiple of us have, done this thing this year. So it's called Andrea/Andrew. These are both Andrea Gibson poems. Your name is a gift you can return if it doesn't fit.
I like that.
And the next one's Fight for Love, and it's got some good moments of humor in it, so I won't complain if you want to leave yourself unmuted, because it's fun hearing reactions. Fight for Love. Maybe you suggested something unthinkable, like perhaps I should get my dog groomed after she rolled in the poo of a sick horse. And I naturally concluded you were the absolute worst for thinking I would subject an angel to the horror of being bathed by a blade-toting stranger. Maybe it was when you were editing my book and you said something elitist like, you can't end every poem by repeating the last line, or you can't have the word moon or firefly in every piece you write. And I screamed something like, I'd rather have a sky without a moon in it than a poem without a moon in it, you uppity, thesaurus addicted snow globe full of dandruff. Maybe it was the Polly argument. Your face going fire engine red the second I mentioned flame. Maybe I decided you didn't want history to exist, which meant you wanted me to be magic. A virgin rabbit pulled out of your pretty hat, or a lady cut in half. Maybe it was when you said like 6 times in a single sentence, and I freaked out about our age difference. And you said I couldn't argue for my own time-earned wisdom while throwing a 3-year-old's tantrum. Good point. Maybe it was one of the times I got so mad I defriended you on Facebook, and you got so mad about that, I decided you were the shallow end of the baby pool. Maybe you peed in the water. Prove me right. Maybe it was the night at a straight bar when the table of men invited you to sit with them. Maybe it was when you didn't notice their eyes drooling down your breasts through Celine Dion on the karaoke machine was just bringing them to tears. Maybe it was when you suggested the bar was queer friendly because someone asked if I was Tegan and Sarah. Maybe it was one of those nights when I was 2 people, neither of them the real me, just caricatures of my worst possible qualities. Maybe it was when we decided to start a podcast discussing all of our arguments, then got into an argument during the first 5 minutes of recording and canceled the show. But at some point it hit me. You and I are always going to fight for love. I am always going to drag my heart into the ring to call you the knockout I've been waiting for my whole life. You are always going to trigger me into rifling through my history until every ghost is hunted out. Every fight we have ever had has been an opportunity to unbruise the past. What hurt would we still be hoarding in our garage had we never fought about your inability to park a car because the GPS stops telling you what to do when you pull into a driveway? Please run over the mailbox if that keeps me looking for new ways to send my best self to you. I am so in love with who we are, who we have been fighting to become together. I can't believe I finally adore a human as much as I adore my dog. Even when I'm in the doghouse, I know you love me so much. Thank you for saying there's no need to open a relationship because being with me is already like being with 50 impossible people. Thank you for accepting my friend request for the 5th time this year. Thank you for screaming all the way home from that straight bar to the bed where our bodies made up, while the moon flew through the window and a firefly poured into the room and landed in your hand, which you opened like a ring box and asked me to marry you. And we were so new, I blushed instead of answered. But a firefly is forever, and you know what my answer is. A firefly is forever, and you know what my answer is.
That's fantastic.
It's so fucking fun to read. I'm glad I decided.
That's so lovely. I'm gonna go and read this to Rory now.
You should absolutely YouTube it. Andy, I think, originally sent it to me. And there's a video of Megan Falley and Andrea Gibson reading it together online.
It's so great.
Oh my god, it's so funny. They really nail those last 2 lines in a really special way. Oh, well, does anyone have any last poems before we wrap up our poetry time for this week?
Place to leave.
I had a silly one because I went to look for, because you said change, and I was like, oh, change could be all this, transformation sort of thing. But it could be the change in your pocket.
I was wondering if you would do that. Like, if anyone's going to think of that, it's probably going to be Andy. If not, then Mike. Or wherever you are now. But yeah, read it.
I found a poem that is called Slap, written by Melissa Stein. It's not exactly about loose change. It's about, it includes loose change, and it's kind of silly. Here goes. Wait, hold on. Less background noise. I want to write my lover a poem, but a very bad one. It'll include a giant squid and some loose change, and cufflinks, and 2 blue ferries chugging headfirst on the East River at 26 knots, and only at the last minute averting disaster through quick thinking and sure reflexes. Also, a bow and arrow and glossy red apple I perch in front of my heart. To be honest, my lover doesn't really like poetry, which I guess is why I plan to write such a bad one, so he can feel right and strong and good in his beliefs. Tonight, when I go see my lover, he'll hold me as I've never been held, except by him, and then I'll have to give him back. When you get new things, you treat them like glass for a while, and then get used to them and manhandle them like everything else. I don't want to give him back, but partly it's not up to me, and partly I don't want to be his old sofa. I want to radiate and gleam arrestingly until the certain premature end. You can compose a whole life out of these roller coasters. You can be everywhere and nowhere, over and over, life slapping you in the face till you're newly burnished, flat out, gasping and awake.
Oh, I really enjoyed that. Great call. What a place to end. I wonder if they're dating Thierry. Feel all right and strong and manly. Anyways, for anyone who's not caught up on the current Storytime book, he is our latest terrible man.
Okay.
He is an everyday terrible man who likes to be manly and stuff.
And
Absolutely,
pay for
the kind of
things
terrible
and
man who you know.
loves people with money.
Yep. All right. So unless anyone has changed their mind, and has any more thoughts, then we shall wrap up our session on change. I borrowed the gavel from Frankie.
Yes.
Bang, bang, bang. Thank you all for coming. This has been really fun. I've really enjoyed it. Right, should we say goodbye to the catch-up crew? I have the power to stop the recording. Bye, catch-up crew. I hope your change isn't too painful.